Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, FPL Consult here, and in today's video I'm going to share with you guys 5 players that I'm considering. I'm going to talk about why I'm considering them, but also some things that are holding me back from fully committing to transferring them into my team. So hopefully you guys enjoy this video and find it useful. If you do, please give it a like and also subscribe as well if you are new around here. So let's jump straight into the first pick, and it is of course Kevin De Bruyne. Right, Manchester City double in game week 20. Right, they will play Manchester United and Tottenham. So for Kevin De Bruyne, his minutes are very secure, and of all the Man City attackers apart from Haaland, I think his minutes are the second most guaranteed. Right, he's got 16 out of 17 starts, so pretty much a nailed starting 11 player, right? And he has very high assist potential as well. And in the last 3 games, actually, after the restart, he's had an XA delta of -1. So that means that owners currently have been pretty hard done by getting 0 returns from him so far. Right, and the appeal for Kevin De Bruyne mainly for me is largely due to Haaland, right? Because Haaland is always at the end of Kevin De Bruyne's crosses. Haaland is a really good finisher, so Kevin De Bruyne would obviously rake in those assist points. So that is where the appeal for me for Kevin De Bruyne comes in, right? And of course, just the overall chance creation aspect of his game, right? But the problem with Kevin De Bruyne, I feel, is that his role in this Man City team is different from his role in last season, where he had both goal threat and also assist threat. For this season, he has kind of turned into the creator, right? He has 3 goals and 10 assists in the first 19 games of the Premier League, right? And if you guys take a look at his heat map, it's concentrated on the left and right of the field, where he swings in crosses, and most likely it is usually on the right, right? That's where it's more concentrated, and it's because he's right-footed and likes to swing balls in from there. So in general, his play has largely evolved from being more central, right, to a little bit wider and swinging in crosses from the left or the right, right? So in general, I would prefer an FPL asset that gets goals, especially from midfielders who score an extra 1 point for goals. So I don't really like the aspect that Kevin De Bruyne is turned more the assister than the finisher, right? And in essence, we're kind of paying a premium for a chance creator. So that is kind of what is drawing me back from Kevin De Bruyne. And on top of that, yes, he is hard done by for the past couple of games not getting assists, but in general, three goals and 10 assists kind of point that his general play has shifted to one, right, where he doesn't really get a lot of goals. So do I really want to go for that? I'm not sure at this point, right? But because of that double, as well as the double in game week 23, he's definitely one to consider for game week 20. The next player that I'm considering as well is Riyad Mahrez. Now, his play style makes him a better FPL asset than Kevin De Bruyne, in my opinion. Right, he largely operates on the right, as we can see from the heat map, and taking shots are a bigger part of his game. Right, cutting in and shooting is a big part of his game, and he's very good at that. In the last 6 games, he's accumulated an XG of 0.39, which is almost double of that for Kevin De Bruyne. He's also got the odd set-piece goal in him, as we saw against Chelsea in the FA Cup. Right, so that is really something that makes him pretty attractive as well. And another factor that kind of plays into my mind is that he's so much cheaper than Kevin De Bruyne. It's easier to reach Mahrez at 7.5 mil. Right, and I've always rated him as a player, but the only thing that puts me off is his minutes. Right, and I'm sure those of you guys who want to go for him as well, it's his minutes that are holding you back, right? So if his minutes was as guaranteed as Kevin De Bruyne, I would go for him, but unfortunately it isn't, and he's only started 6 out of the 17 games this season. But something that may help his cause is that 2 out of those 6 starts came after the restart. So since game week 17, he started 2 out of 3 games, right? And of course, at this point, he's in fine form, right? And Pep always talks about having rhythm, and Mahrez is someone who's currently in full flow, right? So he may get more starts moving forward, but I don't want to bank on that happening, because there's always a risk going for Man City assets or Man City attackers, right? And it's impossible to predict Pep Roulette, because currently he's changing things up, he's trying different formations, and he's just basically shaking up the whole team. Right, so minutes is definitely something that makes me afraid to go for Mahrez, but aside from that, in general, his whole play style as well as his attractiveness as an FPL asset, I think that's what draws me from going away from Kevin De Bruyne, right, and going for Mahrez instead. So next up, we've got Harry Kane, of course, the talisman who has a double game week in game week 20 is definitely someone to consider. Right, he is the main man for Spurs and incredibly consistent this season, 15 goals and 4 assists in 18 games. So he's largely overshadowed by Haaland's incredible season so far, but he is having a really good season himself. Right, so his game week 20 fixture isn't great for sure, I appreciate that, but Kane can score in any game against any opponent, right? And he's shown that this season, right? He can not have a sniff for the larger part of the game, and then you give him one chance, he's gonna take it, right? He's that clinical. And something else that plays into my mind as well is that eventually he will have a permanent spot in my team. Right, Spurs fixtures from game week 23 onwards are incredible, right? So he's someone that I will want in the future. So I could just make the move for him now, maybe even take a hit for him, right? It may or may not pay off immediately, but that's alright, because if he's already going to be in my team for the long haul, right, there's every chance that that hit will pay off in the long run, right? So aside from all these reasons, right, some things that draw me back from actually going for Kane is that fixtures firstly aren't great, right? They played City twice in the span of 3 game weeks, and their double game week 20 fixture is arguably the worst one out of everyone who doubles in game week 20, right? And to play the top 2 teams in the league right back to back, right, in game week 20 is definitely not ideal, right? And secondly, the yellow card situation is the same as Mitrovic for Harry Kane in double game week 20. Basically, if he gets a yellow card in the first game, he won't be able to play that second game of the double game week, which essentially turns his double game week into a single one. So, but these factors aside, I think Kane is a very tempting asset, and he's definitely someone that I'm considering, but at this point, I probably will have to take a hit for him, right, and upgrade maybe Darwin Núñez up to Harry Kane. And then it becomes a different question of whether I think at this point for this game week, Harry Kane with that double game week will outscore maybe Darwin Núñez or whoever else I'm taking out to get to Harry Kane. So those are things that I'm considering, and at this point, I'm kind of 50-50 still, right? He may or may not end up in my team, but because of how consistent he is, I think he's definitely someone that we still have to consider, given that he doubles in game week 20. So next up, we have Luke Shaw, and he has been on somewhat of a revival since the World Cup, right? 3 clean sheets, 1 goal, and 8 bonus points in the span of 3 games after the restart is really incredible. And in the attacking sense, he has good attacking threat, right? 0.24 expected assists per 90 over the last 6 is pretty good, right? And on top of that, he is on a couple of set pieces as well. So this does help chance creation, and in turn helps to accumulate bonus points as well. Right, from the defensive aspect, I think Manchester United have improved as a defensive unit. Right, Casemiro shielding the back four really well, and he has kind of sparked a revival in the United defense. Right, so there's definitely clean sheets in store for United moving forward, and Luke Shaw's minutes are pretty good. 12 out of 17 restarts, but the 5 games that he did not start was partly due to injury as well as the arrival of Malacia in game week 4. Right, but since game week 9, Luke Shaw has started every game, and on top of that, he does have centre-back in his locker. He's featured there twice since the restart already. Right, so if the first choice centre-backs are out, Luke Shaw could feature there as well, and that does help his minutes. Right, so definitely not worried about him starting, but it's whether he is slightly too expensive now and whether I have kind of missed the boat on him. Currently, he is 5.1 mil, so it's quite expensive as compared to Dalot, who is only 4.7, and he has come back from injury now. So Dalot may be the better option, and on top of that, whether now is the right time to bring in a United defender is another question, right? Because Manchester City and Palace, as their double game week 20 fixture, is essentially a single game week for Manchester United defenders, because City is very likely to get at least 1 goal against United, right? So in that sense, is it worth maybe even taking a hit to bring Luke Shaw in? Right, I'm not sure. And on top of that, the pros and cons are definitely there for Luke Shaw. He has been an incredible asset, and I think in general, I don't want to get too carried away with because he has scored so many points. Right? I've missed out on him, and I want to get on him now. Right, but rather, do I think that the points are in store for him moving forward? I think there is a good chance that he will continue to tick along. Right, but I'm not so sure if now is the right time to go for him. So at this point, because he has that double, right, I'm definitely still considering it, but because of the other factors that I've mentioned, I think he's not so clear as to whether we should bring him in now or not. So lastly, we have John Stones as a City defender that I'm considering bringing in. So let me list some caveats first, and it is that no City defender currently is guaranteed a start. Right? The only defensive asset that guaranteed to start for Manchester City is Ederson, who's the goalkeeper. Right? So everyone else is subject to rotation, and that's the difficult thing about going for defensive assets in Manchester City. Right? But the thing is, City are the only team at this point with both a confirmed double game week 20 and a confirmed double game week 23. So in the span of 4 game weeks, they will have 6 fixtures, and that's kind of what is making me think of replacing Cancelo with another defensive asset, right? So if I were to pick one at this point, right, it's pretty much a gamble everywhere you go, right? But I think John Stones will be the one for me if I am to choose a City defender, and that's because even though he pretty much has a 6-point ceiling and the odd maybe bonus point here and there, I think he's done enough for me to convince me at least that he will start the next few, right? He's had an incredible performance against Chelsea. Pep always talks about rhythm, right? And game week 14, since game week 14, he started every game. Now, a couple of things that kind of draw me back, right, is that Laporte is now back from injury, right? So that could now change, and they do have a couple of centre-backs that they could rotate, right? Even Ake could feature in centre-back in some games as well. But I would expect that for Laporte, he could be eased back in, especially when it's a pretty tough run of games for City in quick succession. So at this point, I think maybe Laporte wouldn't be pushed straight into the starting 11 again, right? I do think that John Stones will retain his position for at least a couple of the next couple of games at least, right? I could be wrong, right? But I think if I were to go for a City defender, then John Stones is the one for me. Right, so let me know what you guys think of these of John Stones, as well as all the other picks that I've gone for and I'm considering at this point in time. Who are you guys considering, and what are the reasons that you want to go for him, as well as the reasons that are kind of drawing you back from going for them, right? But if not, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like, subscribe as well if you are new around here, and I will catch you guys in another video for Double Game Week 20 very soon. Bye bye.